Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
On A View from the Outside this week. This week being the 26th of January 2019, we look at betrayal. B-E-T-R-A-Y-A-L, betrayal. With the view being that the time has come for more Vincentians to recognize that silence is betrayal and to start speaking up about the ills that plague the country. The Cambridge Dictionary defines betrayal as an act of betraying someone or something, or the fact of someone or something being betrayed. And the Cambridge Dictionary gives an example to further explain the definition of betrayal. And the example is, I felt a sense of betrayal when my friends refused to support me. That example, to further explain the definition of betrayal, tells us that refusing to lend or give support to relatives, friends, or other citizens, especially when such support is justifiably needed. Monday, the 21st of January, was Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the United States of America, in the USA. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a federal holiday in the USA, which is observed on the third Monday of January. It is designated to celebrate his birthday, which is actually on the 15th of February, and also to recognize and celebrate his tremendous work and contribution to the civil rights movement in the USA. This week's view, on A View from the Outside, is inspired by the speech which Martin Luther King Jr. delivered at the Riverside Church in New York on the 4th of April, 1967. At the time, church leaders had come together to end their silence and speak about the injustice of the Vietnam War. Martin Luther King Jr. was invited to deliver the feature address. The theme of the service was, "A time comes when silence is betrayal." Here's an excerpt of the opening of that speech. I quote him, "I come to this magnificent house of worship tonight because my conscience leaves me no other choice. I join with you in this meeting because I am in deepest agreement with the aims and works of the organization which has brought us together. The recent statement of your executive committee are the sentiments of my own heart, and I found myself in full accord when I read its opening lines. A time comes when silence is betrayal. That time has come for us." Unquote. So that was the opening paragraph of this speech in 1967. Now, taking account of all the injustices which are meted out to the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that inspirational speech from Martin Luther King Jr. has driven us on A View from the Outside to ask our fellow Vincentians whether the time has come to recognize that silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal when the persecution of Bigger Biggs, a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, continues and there is not enough outrage. Bigger Biggs was on radio earlier this week, and it is unbelievable the things which he recounted. From what he said, the conclusion is inescapable that it is totally callous of a government which completely, and in his words, spitefully destroyed his multi-million-dollar business, and they continue to pursue him. He said that at one time he was promised compensation by the government, by the Prime Minister, but instead of being compensated, they continue to harass him and prevent him from having the peace and security and quiet enjoyment of his property at Rubbercar. Bigger Big sounded like a completely broken man. He sounded close to tears. He sounded like he is experiencing the last straw. The straw that broke the camel's back. Silence is betrayal if you continue to stand unmoved while Bigger Biggs suffers unbearably. Silence is betrayal when you do not speak out in support of Marcus de Freitas so that he could be compensated for his property, which the government compulsorily acquired all those years ago. Silence is betrayal when the health service is in shambles, when there is a lack of basic medication and supplies at the main hospital and other clinics around the country, and when friends and relatives die as a result, when the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital is mold infested and there is a threat of MRSA, sepsis, and other bacterial infection. And because you support the ruling party, you say nothing in condemnation of their action or non-action. Yes, silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal when you do not demand conclusions for the investigations that the country is promised, but a conclusion is never presented. You will remember in February 2014, you were promised an investigation into the improprieties of the Deputy Consul General, who is alleged to have been involved in the selling of passports and green cards, and who allegedly duped scores of poor Vincentians in the USA of their hard-earned money. In relation to that matter, you will remember also that the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Camilo Gonzalez, told the nation that the Deputy Consul General was, I quote, was involved in activities outside the scope of his employment and inimical to the interests of the Consulate General and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, unquote. Silence is betrayal when you sit back and allow their failure to come back to you, to us, with a conclusion to go unchallenged. You will also remember that just days before the last elections of December 9th, 2015, when it surfaced that high-ranking officials in the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines allegedly have millions of dollars in bank accounts overseas, and an investigation was promised. In fact, at the time, the Prime Minister told Vincentians, that he had instructed the Office of the Attorney General to immediately contact the government of the United States of America and the Mutual League Assistance Treaty to investigate a fraudulent bank document with an alleged bank account domiciled to an address in Brooklyn, New York, USA. He also said that he instructed the Commissioner of Police to open a criminal investigation into the fraudulent document locally, which includes any regional or international operatives currently working in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as to immediately contact Interpol, the regional security system, and the Joint Regional Intelligence Fusion Center of IMPACS to assist in the investigation. He also said that he instructed the Commissioner of Police to alert the Director of Public Prosecutions of these investigations. It is now nearly 4 years ago since he made those pronouncements, and there has not been a word about it since. Silence is betrayal when you sit back and allow these things to go unchallenged. Silence is betrayal if you do not speak out and support the teachers and the public servants and their unions when they are being pilloried and battered, and when by edict they are given a derisory 1% increase in salary. Silence is betrayal when you say nothing when opposition members are tossed out of parliament and thrown down the stairs. Silence is betrayal when you say or do nothing when one of those MPs, the Honorable Daniel Cummins, the representative of West Kingstown, who suffered a long-term injury when he was thrown out of parliament down the stairs at that time. Silence is betrayal when that same member of parliament, Daniel Cummins, had his wine business curtailed, and who for many years now cannot get a court hearing to have the court decide on this matter against the government. Silence is betrayal when you sit by and say nothing and do nothing when the country is being told by members of the regime that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, justice has two faces, suggesting that the kind of justice you get is dependent on who you are and your links to the government. Silence is betrayal when you sit by and say or do nothing when the crime rate, including murder, rape and sexual assault, and other violent offenses, continues to escalate out of control. Your own safety and security is compromised. Silence is betrayal when you say or do nothing when St. Vincent and the Grenadines is ranked number 8 out of 25 countries in the world with the highest murder rate. Silence is betrayal when you say or do nothing when Mr. Jocelyn of Cane Garden, the servant of the Lord, disappears, goes missing without a trace. Silence is betrayal when you say or do nothing about the mystery of the brutal killing of Glenn Jackson, and who now seems to be forgotten by the regime which he helped to get into government. Silence is betrayal when you say or do nothing about the mowing down of Edgar Cruikshank at a political meeting held by the opposition New Democratic Party, the NDP. It was widely rumored that Edgar Cruikshank, who was a longtime supporter of the ruling Unity Labour Party, the ULP, attended the NDP meeting to publicly announce his switch to support them. Silence is betrayal when you do not speak out in support of Terry Bino and others in Canawan when they bravely fought and continue to fight to ensure that the beaches remain accessible to every Vincentian. Silence is betrayal when you know that the government continues to disregard the constitution of the country, the highest law of the land, and refuse to provide accountability as dictated by the constitution. And when you say nothing about and do nothing about demanding accountability, silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal when you do or say nothing about school buildings and other public facilities throughout the country which are in disrepair. Silence is betrayal when, from all reports, human trafficking is taking root in the country and you do or say nothing. Silence is betrayal when you do or say nothing in support of the workers of Bukamar Bay Resort who remain unpaid despite the many promises of payment to them. Silence is betrayal when there is no outcry from you about the damning judgment which the court delivered against the Public Service Commission in relation to the state of affairs pertaining to promotion or the lack of promotion in the public service. Silence is betrayal when you say or do nothing, when the legitimacy of the government is still in serious doubt, and when the same dubious government is accused of doing everything possible to stop the trial of the election petitions, which will ultimately determine whether it is a legal government or not. We can go on and cite many more examples of when silence is betrayal. However, time does not permit. And in any event, we are sure that you get the picture by now. And so we hope that you agree that it is time to end your silence, because silence is betrayal. We hope, too, that like Martin Luther King, your conscience will leave you no other choice but to end your silence, which is a betrayal to our beloved St. Vincent and the Grenadines. End your silence, your betrayal, because your brothers and sisters need you. Your family and friends need you. Your neighbors need you. And your country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, needs you. Vincentians, the time has come when your silence is betrayal. Until next week, Randy, this is Brereton Horne with a view from the outside, with a reminder to send your feedback, as usual, to the listeners, to a view from the outside at hotmail.com. That's a view from the outside at hotmail.com. We also invite you to visit our Facebook page, which is A View from the Outside. And we also encourage you to visit our YouTube channel at Brereton Horne. Randy, you and all of the listeners have a pleasant Saturday, have a wonderful Sunday, and have a productive week ahead. All the best to you and all the listeners.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Horne. Have a great weekend. Enjoy to the max.
Thank you, Randy.